Notion allows you to take notes, track goals, build a CRM, publish websites, and a lot more. Ultimately, Notion can help you build your business on a solid foundation. In this video, my partner Spencer is going to walk you through how to get started with Notion so you can scale your business. Spencer, being a full stack engineer, is more than qualified to know how to do this because he built this for his last agency before he sold it. So you are in good hands.
Hey, this is Spencer, founder of 8-Figure OS, and today I'm going to show you how to build out a complete project management system for an agency using Notion. One of the biggest opportunities we see in agencies that we work with is that they have messy ops, and this starts from the project management space that they work through. Notion is a great project management tool because it's very easy for your team to learn and to use it individually, and many of them may already be doing it. And as a business owner, you're not going to be sacrificing the kind of things you can do just because the tool is simple to use for your team. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to build a full agency space from scratch. Here's what we're going to be building today. There's many different pieces of the project management system for a agency, but I'm going to be building out the core parts of that today. There's more that you can do later, and obviously this is always a work in progress, but you can make sure that you can get the core system set up. The rest will follow. First things first, you want to be creating a new page for your company space, and this is just a typical Notion page. You're going to be adding a cover. I like to be having good vibes with it, so we can have a beautiful nature scene. I like this one. Upload your company logo, so you can do that however you'd like. Yeah, you can actually set your company logo as the default picture for it. So that looks good. When you are setting up your company space architecture, people always overcomplicate this. Put almost everything in the same page, so it's very easy to invite teammates in it. And for any sensitive information, like passwords or retainer information, payment details, salaries, put that in a separate space, and then invite people who should be members of that into that space. We're going to start by creating two columns. One of the columns is going to be company. Another is going to be strategy. Now we're going to keep on continuing with this. We're going to have another two columns. We're going to have marketing, sales. After marketing and sales, we're going to set up another two for fulfillment. And finally, a miscellaneous one. Now, first things first, the easiest one, make an archive. I like to use icons that are the same color because I find it makes more aesthetically pleasing. So trash. Now this is the archive. All you do is we're going to put stuff in the archive when we're done using it, when we want to keep it for later, but we don't want to have it cluttering up the space. That's where the archive goes. Think of it like your trash bin, but you can keep track of things going forward. All right, now the first big moving piece is your task space. This is where the majority of the work is going to be done within your agency. So set this up right and make sure that your team's using it. We're going to go back to the company space and make a database. When you're making a database, make sure to make it a full page database because this will allow you a lot more features in the database that otherwise might be a pain later on down the road. So make it a full page. We're going to call this the workspace. We're going to give it an icon. It's going to be wrenches. And what do we want to do here? So the things that you'd like to have in your task space, you need to have it assigned. Every single task should be attached to a person. Now, we're going to delete this one here, and we're going to call this one assignee. We're going to have a due date on everything, and we're going to call this one due. This will be a date. I don't really care about time. So I don't care the minute, hour, second that it's due. I just care when is the date due. Furthermore, I like to put this as a relative date because then if it's tomorrow, it'll show up as tomorrow here. So it's more clear. This is a preference, but I prefer to have it that way. We're going to need to have a status. So when you're setting up the status, it comes with the default of not started, in progress, or done. I like to have other statuses in my workspace. For example, someday. These are tasks that aren't necessarily on the list yet, but you might want to do them at one point in time. In progress, we're going to have this is actually in review. So this is what you'd be using if you want to have a status of something that you'd like to check before it's done. And when you're just onboarding people, when you have new teammates, make sure that you're reviewing all their work. This is really important. Just get them to send a loom of what they've done and move it to in review and then tag you. So we're going to call this one in review. We're going to make it yellow and we're going to put it down here. Now the order of these matters, what we'll see later on when we start sorting them by the different statuses. So then we have complete. That's all you should need for now. Although as more things come on, you can add them in. For example, it can be a blocked. You can have a block status that you use, and you can do a lot of cool things with automating that, but it's good to have a status as that. Now, dependencies. It's important to figure out what's depending on what. So we're going to actually edit the workspace here. We're going to customize it, and we're going to allow sub items. So on sub items, what this allows you to do is say this is going to be parent task, and this is going to be the subtask. Task 1, subtask 2. You can actually hide them if you don't want to look at them all at once, but as you drop it down, you can even have subtask of subtask. So this is one of the features of Notion. It just allows you to chunk things and collect them better. So don't overdo it with these, but it's nice to be able to create parent and subtask, and you can access them by a little drop down here. Furthermore, for customizing, we want to have it's a task space. We're going to definitely have a task database. And as you can see, we've already made all these. So you need to have an assignee, a status, and a due date. Since we've already got that, we can turn this into a task database just like that. Finally, we're going to add dependencies. So when we have dependencies, this won't come up too often, but I do like to shift it when dates overlap, or either when maintain tasks in between. So that means if something that's dependent on something else, if the parent task gets moved, then you can have the subtask below get moved as well. This is really helpful when you're working on complex projects that have many moving parts and something gets delayed. So turn on dependencies and it will show up. Now, as you can see, is you'll have block by and blocking. These are created as new properties that when you have this one, so parent task, subtask, if I say that subtask is blocked by parent task, it'll show up here. And likewise, this will show up as blocking. So they're transitive properties. Finally, we'll set up a client relationship in this database. However, we don't have that space yet. So let's go build it. Now, as fulfillment, we'll create a new database for clients. Now, the client database, you have the client name, so company name. We'll have the company name. We'll actually make a status property of where the client is currently at. So we'll call it a status. So what could they possibly be? They could be onboarding, they could be on retainer, or they could be done. They could also be complete but re-engage. I like to have a re-engage later column as well, just so I can have that tracked. Let's keep it simple for now. There's more ways to make this better and more interesting, but for now, this is what we're going to be having. So awesome, client 1. And we're going to give these little icons because then we can differentiate them better. Okay, now that we have our two clients, we can actually go back to our workspace. We're going to make a relation property, and it's going to be between the client space and this space. We're not going to show it on clients because that could be confusing, but we'd like to only have one client per task, because otherwise that wouldn't make sense. Now that we have this set up, we can say that this task is related to this client. What this allows you to do is track what projects are being done for what clients, so answer questions for your team before they might have them. The final thing of your task space, you want to set up a template. What a template allows you to do is have consistency about how new pages are made within that database. In this case, we want to have a consistent format to how we assign tasks to team. We'd like to say the assignee is going to be whoever duplicated the page by default. We don't need to have any of these as defaults, but we do want to have a default format to this. So we'll have desired outcome. This will be a concise way to describe what you'd like to have at the end of this task so that it's easy to determine whether or not somebody has actually completed this task. You have a to-do. This will be able to describe the subparts of the task that are clearly to do. So it needs to have this in place. So if you're going to have set up billing for awesome client 1, it's going to be make the retainer for $3,000 per month, prorate the first month from the 19th to the 31st, and for every month onwards, do $3,000 per month. And now we can have context. This is going to be where you provide any other context that's relevant to the task. This could be a Loom video, this could be passwords, this could be other information, but just make sure that everything that needs to be done, everything that needs to be shown for that task is described within here. All we need to do now is set this new template as the default for all of using the workspace. Finally, we're going to be adding a couple of different views onto this workspace. So we're going to start with the current tasks. This is going to be all the tasks that are currently in progress. We're going to have a circle. Now we're going to be filtering by status is in progress or to do, but we're not going to show someday maybe because those ones actually would be busying it up. Now we're going to have another view, which is all tasks. This will just be showing all tasks. And actually, I forgot one thing here. We're also going to sort this by due date ascending, meaning that tasks which come earlier, like tasks that are due tomorrow, are going to be showing up before the tasks that are due next week, next month, and so on. What this will allow you to do is when you have many tasks going on at the same time, you'll be able to see them all sequentially. We also have another, which is mine. Empty view, we're going to have a my view. So for my tasks, we're going to put this as a person, only show tasks here that are assigned to me. So what that means is, and we're actually going to organize this one as the first on the list, meaning that it's the default view for everybody. So since we've assigned only to me, that means that only show me the tasks that are assigned to me. We also only want to show the tasks that are either to do or in progress. Now, the final thing, once again, always sort by due date ascending. This will allow you to make sure that you only show tasks that are relevant right now. One more thing, just to have a little bit of future proofing in mind, I always like to have a QA view with a magnifying glass. And what this will allow you to do is see tasks that are incorrectly formatted. You should have no tasks in this view is the idea. So we have to have a filter, which is going to be an advanced filter, which is where we're going to actually convert this into a group where assignee is empty. So if there's no assignee, something's wrong. or due date is empty. We'll keep it simple for now, but the point is if assignee is empty or due date is empty, something is wrong with this. So we need to make sure that this has been fixed. What you can do is once a week, twice a week, you can have you or one of your employees check the QA view and make sure that nothing shows up there. All right, we're gonna save this and move on. Next, we're gonna be setting up your SOP library. When you set up your SOP library, we see this wrong all the time. Make sure there's a consistent template that's followed for every SOP. Make sure each one is complete and make sure that your team is using them. The first step of this is making a good SOP library within your company space. So we're gonna make another database, SOPs. They're gonna have a book as the icon, and we're gonna get started. So we're gonna have the name here. We're going to have a status on here. It's going to be not starting, in progress, done, and needs improvement. You can have more here, but keeping it pretty simple is important. We're going to call this one status. Next, we're going to have a role. So it's going to be a select, multi-select role. So this is going to be admin, fulfillment, sales, marketing, HR. Feel free to add these as you want, but the point is that we figure out which role this SOP falls under. Now, when you're making your SOPs, make sure that you use a consistent template for them. Now, I've already built mine out, but if you would like access to this, feel free to send me a message and we'll make sure that you get this. Ultimately, it's really important that you're adding all of the information consistently across the SOPs that you make for your company to use. So let's walk through the different parts of it. What's the purpose of the SOP? Summarize the procedure, what's the desired outcome, and 1 or 2 sentences on why it's important. Video, don't forget the video. Make a video of you doing it and then write down the steps that happen in the video as you review it later. Then required resources. So what does somebody need to have in place before they start with the SOP? In this case, it could be software access. It could be what you've already done. It could be what type of tools you have, what type of knowledge you have. Just write down the prerequisites for it happening. And these could be other SOPs. Definition of done, make 1 or 2 sentences on what needs to happen to make sure that this task has been done. Step by step, this is when you write down actually what happens, A, B, C, D, E, to make this completed. And finally, when it comes to what type of decisions somebody might need to make, this is when you add that into the quality control and decision-making piece. Finally, any related resources, good videos, other documentation, other companies' information. What are some other things that might be helpful for somebody to look at so that they can finish this SOP? So now that you've set up that template, once again, make sure it's the default for all views in the SOP, and we're gonna make a few different views. So we're gonna make the first view as completed. In the completed SOP list, you're gonna be filtering by status is complete. We're going to have another one that's going to be by department. We're going to group by role, and we're going to filter by also status is complete. And then finally, we're going to add in progress, and we'll add a filter for only show me ones that are either status is in progress or not started. Save for everybody, and there we go. So that's going to be our SOP library. Finally, we're going to set up the team meeting space. So this is just going to be a page. So the point of a team meeting space is that there's consistency across different meetings for what needs to happen for each person in the company, what the action items are, and what you're working on as a company. So what we'll do here is make another 2 column. We'll make a database in line, and we'll call it team goals. So this is going to be, and we'll hide this because we actually don't need to see it. Now, in here, we're going to be outlining what is happening in the company that we'd like to be tracking as large objectives. So we're going to have this as a date, and we're going to say due, and we're going to have a due date. We're also going to have an assignee, assigned to, and we're going to have a status. And as status, I'd like to have here, not started, on track, off track, hit, and missed. So how do you use this? When you're doing the meeting, you're going to have a goal as 10 sales meetings booked. It's going to be off track, and we're going to have this due in the start of next month. So it's going to be assigned to me. Now, every single meeting, we're going to go over these and make sure we're understanding, are we on track or off track, and what can we do to make sure these are on track? We're going to set up another one, which is action items. Oh, another thing we'd like to do here is make this a full width page so that we can track and we can see everything at the same time. Now, we're going to make an action item list. So that's going to be Spencer, teammate 1. Now, as you go through the meeting, make sure that you assign action items here so that you can have accountability day over day, week over week, about who's doing what. In the next meeting, you'll be able to then see, has that been done? So on that note, we're going to be setting an agenda. So make another 2 columns. So in the agenda, we want to make sure that it's very clear what happens every single meeting. So here's how I like to run my 60-minute team-wide meetings every single week. We start with the catch up and the intention really quickly. We go down the goals one by one and just are like on track or off track, nothing else. Then we're going to check the areas of focus and the action items, which we'll get into in a second. We're going to go over the talking points, which we'll add in a second as well. We'll check the action items and we'll review them before the next week, and then we'll close the meeting. So when it comes to areas of focus, we like to have that delegated as well. Now we just list in point form, what are we working on as a company? These aren't goals. These are just improvements that we're looking to make. So area of focus number 1 is going to be under 5 minutes per follow-up. Inbound leads. And every single time we're just going to check, how are we doing here? What can we do to push this ahead? And who's responsible for it? Week after week, we're aligning the team on what needs to be done to move the company forward. Further than that, we're going to have talking points. We're going to have the talking points here, and then we're going to have one for each person. Space for each person to add their talking points. Okay, so when you are assigning talking points, the purpose of talking points is that a team member can add to this before the meeting to make sure that we can touch on this while we're talking in the meeting. So this is something that can't be done over Slack. We'd like to bring it up. Hey, I'm having trouble with this. Hey, I'd like to talk about the way that we work together here. I'd like to have anything. Open the space for them to bring that up and make them add it into the talking point so that when you're running the meeting, you can get to it. Finally, in the meeting space, we're going to be making a database view, and we're going to link to the workspace. So during the meeting, you can look at who's doing what's overdue, and you can check these things. What this is going to do is just help you from bouncing around to different parts of the software. So this is your team meeting space. You can use this to align every single meeting, day over day, week over week, with what's happening, what you're focusing on, what your goals are, and make sure everybody's rowing in the same direction. Now, looking at our space features, there's a lot more to build, but some of these are actually much larger videos that we'll get into later. So when you're building out your space, make sure you're doing it one by one. Don't get overwhelmed by all the things that need to happen. Just realize that every single thing you add, once it's being used, once your team is making it happen, you will be able to further systemize your business and take work off your plate so you can get the agency that runs by itself. Now we are going to add an icon to the team meeting space. I like to use this icon here, and there you have it. So this is obviously a very bare bones version of what you need to have as a company. So there you have it. We built the core pieces of your agency's project management system, but the software only does so much. In order to truly have streamlined operations, you need software, systems, and people to be working in harmony. If you'd like help getting there, send us a message and we can talk about building you a business that runs without you. Excited to see you build this out. Drop a note about how this is going for you, and happy building.
Thank you for watching. And if this video added value to you, make sure you like and subscribe to get more videos like this in the future. Now, Notion is just one of many options, and there are many other project management tools out there. Each one has unique features to help you run your business more effectively. To assist you, I've made a comprehensive list of all the best software tools to use for your business in the link that you can see below. Thank you.